Hello and welcome, my name is OddyC and this is my 7-minute review of Crypt the NecroDancer, where I attempt to tell you everything I know about the game. What it is, how it plays, how it works, and how it doesn't, all in just 7 minutes. And here we go. Crypt the NecroDancer is a game developed by Brace Yourself Games, with production support from Clay Entertainment. Currently in early access, they describe it as a hardcore dungeon-crawling roguelike rhythm game. In essence, you control an adventurous young woman named Cadence, and you must move, explore, and attack to the beat of the music as you try to kill all the monsters on a level and escape to the next level of the dungeon you're in. It's a simple but clever melding of two very popular genres, and NecroDancer has been creating a fair amount of hype through its development precisely because it's doing something unique, and it's evidently made with a lot of love and dedication. Now, in case you're wondering, this is indeed a very difficult, challenging game. The controls are very simple, arrow keys move your character around and you move into a monster to attack it. But there's a fantastic variety of monsters in between you and your goal, and all of them have the capacity to very quickly bring an end to your adventure. Seriously, you will die. A lot. Your survival depends on keeping to the beat and learning the attack patterns of every enemy you encounter. For example, the blue slime always alternates between moving up and down, and the skeleton always puts its hands in the air before moving towards you, so you know never to stand next to it when that happens. However, the further you delve into the game, the more challenging it is to detect and counter the monster's behaviours, and when you're in a room filled with enemies coming from every direction, it suddenly becomes extremely difficult to keep your head and stay alive. But this is actually one of the best things about NecroDancer. When you play well, you feel immensely satisfied, and when you die, you rarely, if ever, feel cheated. You know that it was your fault you died, and that makes the game far more addictive and lovable than if it forced you into situations where no amount of skill could ever save you. Killing these mobs earns you gold, with which you can buy certain upgrades at the shop located on every level. Perhaps an apple to replenish lost health, or a longsword to help take out foes from a distance. There are many different items and tools which can be bought and used to make your life easier in NecroDancer. Weapon types change the way you attack foes. For example, a broadsword allows you to attack the square in front of you as well as the squares either side of it, which makes it great for crowd control. In addition to the weapon type, each weapon can be made from different materials. For instance, a titanium whip deals more damage than a regular whip, while an obsidian whip deals bonus damage depending on your current score multiplier. You can also find diamonds in each dungeon, both on the floor and embedded in the walls, which you can dig away. These diamonds are used in the game lobby to unlock permanent upgrades, such as extra hearts or new items to buy from the shop in each dungeon. These upgrades are required if you want to progress to the later levels. There are at the moment 4 zones in the game, each with their own unique environments, monsters and dangers to face. Each zone has 3 floors or levels, each more challenging and densely populated than the last, and once you've killed the mini-bosses at the end of each level, you are randomly assigned a final boss to defeat. From what I've seen so far, the boss battles could actually be a little more difficult. I often find that I die far more in the regular dungeons than I do in the boss dungeons, now that I've figured out how to counter the bosses. So maybe later updates will provide more challenging boss battles, or maybe I just haven't yet progressed far enough into the game to see the real challenges some bosses can pose. Whatever the case, the boss battles are certainly imaginative and add a good sense of closure to each zone. Each dungeon is procedurally generated at the start of the game. In every dungeon there are different enemies to slay and different items to find. There are even secret rooms hidden through the walls, some with treasure, some with hidden traps and monsters, and you must use your trusty shovel to dig through the walls to find these areas or open up shortcuts. The procedural element makes every experience different, which saves the game from becoming repetitive after a number of tries. One issue I have found, albeit rather minor, is that sometimes monsters will be placed next to each other without making sure that the monsters are free to move in their set patterns. Once I went into the dungeon's final room expecting to encounter a very challenging mini-boss, but the dragon there was completely surrounded by monsters and unable to move. Little experiences such as these prevent the game from being quite as polished as it can be. It's important to remember, however, that this game is in early access, and the game is not yet finished, though one would be mistaken for thinking otherwise, because despite its few tiny flaws, NecroDancer is an incredibly polished and well-rounded game, far more so than a lot of fully finished games I've played. Whether it's the beautiful and charmingly simple graphics, the wide variety of spells and weapons and items in the game, or the absolutely phenomenal soundtrack, the game just oozes character and confidence. The soundtrack is composed by Danny Baranowski, the musician behind the Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac soundtracks, and what he's done in NecroDancer is really just top notch. In fact, I'm just going to shut up for a minute and let you listen to one of the tracks so you can see for yourself. Yeah, the music is just fantastic. Aside from the 4 zones you can unlock, there's also a hardcore mode which strips you of all your upgrades and puts you in a random world to see how far you can get. There's also a daily challenge which you can attempt once every 24 hours and compete with other players around the world. In addition, there is the ability to add your own custom music to the game, which is useful if you find the soundtrack becoming a bit too repetitive, although I haven't found that because I absolutely love the game's soundtrack. But it is a very cool idea that will definitely add to the enjoyment of those who decide to use it. I think you've guessed around about now that I absolutely love Crypt of the NecroDancer. Whether you're playing local co-op with your friend and desperately attempting to work together and keep each other alive, or whether you go into the shop at the right moments in the song and the shopkeeper begins to sing along in his magnificent booming voice, NecroDancer is one of a few games that deserve every bit of praise and hype that it's received. Does that mean it's perfect? No, of course not. Are there people who won't enjoy it? Undoubtedly. The game is a combination of very specific genres, and not everyone will be attracted to its ideas. But if this game does sound interesting to you, then I'd advise picking it up on Steam and giving it a go, because it really is as good as it looks. It is currently £10.99 as of this recording. Crypt of the NecroDancer is a fantastic game that ticks pretty much every box for me, and I see myself spending many more hours playing it in the months to come. My name has been OddyC, and this has been my 7-minute review of Crypt of the NecroDancer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.